From Sunset Beach, Hawaii, weighing 267 pounds, the magnificent Muraco.
Why is it they call him magnificent? The man who lifts condominiums off his chest. Anything that's explosive, anything that's exciting, Prince of Darkness, Master of Destruction, perpetrator of violence. Get ready! I'm gonna burn this place down!
Hello everybody, it's James here, Don Muraco's Magnificent Podcast. Do the quick plugs, books behind me, Amazon, you know the deal, donmuraco.com for all your signed merchandise. Speeding through it even quicker than usual because it has taken us 46 minutes to get the webcam working. And it turns out to get the webcam working you had to unplug it and then just use the computer one like usual. Don. I was getting worried you were frozen then for a minute.
Yeah, okay. Here we go again.
No, I wasn't. No. We'll keep it. We'll carry on.
Okay.
Why? Do you want me to do a different intro?
No, fine. That's great.
Oh, was it?
No more cards and autographs, so I'm done with that.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah. You know what they do now? They send the cards. They won't. My wife or their daughter don't have anything, so they'll send cards or pictures or whatever it is. No money, and then they'll write a letter how great I am, how great I was, and how much they loved me. And I said, I know I was great. I know I know I was the best. So I guess they figured by putting me over, they can just send because I started a few times I came with money, without money, so I just signed them and send them back. Now they're like everybody says that. Fuck it, so I just throw them away.
Yeah. So, donmuraco.com for nothing. Then
no, say hello,
yeah to say hello. Okay, right, so you don't get any signed stuff anymore, so tough. You've ruined it, everybody, apparently.
Joe LeDuc, the guy LeDuc did that from Canada. Yes, I thought he was related to Joe LeDuc, my friend from Florida, and so he sent me. He said, "Can I?" So I figured, can you sign? I said, I figured it's Joe's, relative of Joe's. So can you sign a couple? So I figured he's sending me 2 or 3 pictures. 8 by 10, or something, just pictures. So they send me dolls and magazines, a whole box load of crap. That I just got to go back through customs too, And I'm not. I wasn't going to stand in line to get. You got to fill out papers. Oh Jesus! I finally got rid of it, but yeah, he wanted a free. He got a free signatures, but that's the last. He ruined it for everybody. I'm just done.
When was this? Like recently?
Oh, well, in the interim, while you were away, the last 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah,
man. Do you know what? I didn't have many like long flights or anything, but just that last one. You can just tell when you're gonna, just like your ears just start popping straight away.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't stop, and like we were flying so high as well, so it just messed me. It's one of those things where you can do, I can do like an 8-hour flight and get off the plane and feel fine, or I can do a 1.5-hour flight and feel like death. It's just, I don't know if it's just the altitude or whatever, but I recovered. Flying. You've got no sympathy for me. How many flights did you catch over your career?
Not many lately.
No, not many lately, but I mean, how many, like between like Florida and the WWF, you must have done like 1,000.
Yeah, WWF was the one.
Mm.
That's the one that jaded you for all travel, all trips. It was, up at 6, airport at 7, flight, gym, motel, repeat cycle. Again, night after night. Unless you get be lucky, you're in a town where you rent a car and you're kind of satelliting for a couple of days, driving back and forth in and out of LA or Detroit or Chicago or one of those metropolitan areas like that, where you can kind of, where you can settle down and then move on. But other than that, it's just a plane every day.
Were you somebody who could sleep on flights easily?
Not for the first 20 minutes. I could, first 20, 30 minutes, I could sit there and I can probably still now. I could nod out, and then I was good. Then I was up and really about all I needed.
I'm trying to think. What was Because I mean, like for long flights for me, you know, I'm always on the Valium. What was the sleeping drug of choice for everybody trying to get some sleep in a long haul flight?
Oh God, those are halcyons.
Oh right, so
In
you'll
those
sleep for
days.
like 24 hours then?
No, up in the house, yeah, they had everything. The doctor, well, when the doctor from Pennsylvania was around, it was Halcyon, Valium, and what were the red thing? Placidils. And they're not. I don't know if they're I think classified a hypnotic, and I don't know, and probably other, then other ones would enter into the picture eventually, But those are the basics in those times.
Yeah. That's got to be the hardest thing. I mean, it's not the bumps and everything. It's got to be just the travel's just got to just killed you.
Well, being away from home,
Hmm.
no home life, no centralized, no basis really until you get home. And you're trying to hold it down on both fronts, keep your mind, keep a business, keep a business attitude, in your working business. That's why people ask questions. They don't even remember the last couple of years of the business because you're traveling. I guess that was Vince's his theory that you keep them moving, you keep them so busy they don't have time to think. Because I see a lot of questions and stuff about angles. Did I know about Valentine? Did I know about if I knew about it, it was something that just passed through, went through in one ear and went out the other until you actually did it. It wasn't. It was just a rumor.
Mm.
It wasn't actually taking place until something actually happened.
Yeah, I don't know how you guys cope with it. I mean, I know how a lot of people try to cope with it, but I just, for long term, I don't know how anyone sort of, could manage to cope with it just being on the road all the time, unless you were like Ric Flair and you just couldn't cope with home life at all.
Yeah. Some guys like that. He's above and beyond. He's still going. You got to give him credit. I mean, he drives to be. He loves that spotlight that he's in. He loves that persona. Ric Flair, 1 hour man. This, it's just, he's just, and he worked. Like I said, he used to bust his ass to get back to Atlanta TV because Atlanta was the hub for, TBS and going all over and he worked, like even sportscasters and people know him now a lot as well as the WWF, but he brought himself into prominence before WWF. Just and it's an old Freddie Blassie. It's what Freddie Blassie drilled into young guys that would listen to him. He says, go and get on your promo and repeat your name. Mention, make your name a household word. Don Muraco, the Magnificent Muraco, Magnificent, or classic Freddie Black. At the end, people, will respond to your, it's subliminal, more than subliminal.
Mm-hmm.
You're slamming
Overt.
over the, you're slamming over the head with it. But it's it makes sense. You only have so much time on the promos. The average. Well, now it's kind of different. But it's way different.
You know that Ric Flair, he released a video maybe a week or so ago about him running around the ring and taking slams and everything at 70-something years old. That must give you the idea that you could have one more run.
No. No. I'm not running around. God bless him, He wants to do that to himself. And he had that whole heart thing, that whole health thing about a year or two ago. It's just a couple years ago, right?
Yeah. I've got a feeling that this might be something to do with the idea why he's divorced for the 5th time as well. Is that I just think he just wants to just be Ric Flair, the character, 24/7.
Yeah.
He can't let it go.
He kind of lost. I think he lost it when, losing a son or a child. I think is probably maybe the hardest thing anybody can go through. And I guess he had 2 sons.
David and Reed, yeah, and Reed's the youngest one who
Is that the one that passed away?
Yeah.
I guess I think he went. That's when he went on, and I guess he seems like he's kind of come back. a little bit after that. But he's just he's lost himself in Ric Flair persona now.
Yeah, maybe that's where he's happiest.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
If it works for you, what the hell?
We're going to move on to one piece of news. I did look through. I couldn't find any major pieces of news that I thought we could talk about, apart from Tammy Sitch. You know the story, but in case anybody doesn't know the story, she is responsible for the death of a 75-year-old man while she was driving intoxicated. It took weeks for the toxicology reports to come back, and then she was arrested. But she's basically caused death by dangerous driving, allegedly, because she's not been convicted for it yet. And she's being sued by the family, and it turns out that she was under the influence. And she didn't have a driver's license, and she's had 7 DUIs in the last few years, and she's just off the rails.
I met her one time when I was doing an independent show for Todd Gordon. The one that Paulie Danger Extreme, was it?
Yeah, ECW.
Yeah, ECW. And she was young. She wasn't even Sunny yet. She was just Kristen. I don't think they were even married yet. I never knew Candido very well either. But she was beautiful young. Just 18, 20 years old. How innocent can you be? And then I never knew her after that. And then just stories from WWF, and then the history. So who knows? It's God. It's horrible. Something like that would taking it to sober you up, actually kill him. Is there really a bright cloud in the future? It's hard to say.
Well, she'll probably only get. Who knows? It's Florida. I mean, I've heard. For murder, you can get 50 years to 1,000 years, as some of those crazy numbers. But then it could just be put down to manslaughter and get a few years, or even who knows? Who knows what she'll get, or even be charged with.
Yeah.
I will move on then, and we'll go to the main meat of the podcast. We're doing WWF Year in Review, May 1986 still, and the first thing is something I forgot to mention in the last one. And Ricky Steamboat and Jake the Snake Roberts on May the 3rd, Saturday night's main event, kick off their feud. It included Jake dropping Ricky with the DDT on the concrete, knocking Ricky out cold. Do you remember this?
Vaguely. I remember hearing the story. I remember Jake said he couldn't he couldn't DDT him on the ground. Jake, I said I can't do it, I'm going to kill him. And then, I guess he almost did. So
I don't get the rationale where he said I can't DDT him on the ground, because surely he wasn't spiking people's heads into the mat every night. So why could he not just do the same on the floor?
I guess no play with his body and the head between his arm and the, you got control, and your head goes down to a point, and you're probably able, you're able to pop it. I don't know.
No,
I get one in Australia. He DDT'd me once, but like I said, I didn't feel anything. In the middle of the ring too. So, but yeah, there's a big. I remember Steamboat looked like a unicorn.
Was he legit knocked out then?
Yeah, knocked his shit out of him. He was, he was cold.
I can't.
He came to eventually, but
I can't imagine that he would have got too much sympathy as far as having a concussion at the time is concerned. What was the sort of protocol when you got a concussion or got your bell rung? I mean, would you even complain about it?
You wouldn't, who knows? It's if it's a work, if it's a shoot, where nobody knows what's going. Only Vince and a couple other people know what's going on, and then they don't want to let out let the cat out of the bag, so to speak. So who knows? And things, I guess these things are moving so fast and so furious that it was like, I think that was like the goal of the office, to keep you off guard. So, you know what the hell's going on.
Have you ever been concussed, like completely knocked out?
No.
How many concussions do you think you've had over the years?
Couple. I know I got a good one when Coco drop kicked me one time in Toronto off the top rope, and my head hit the mat. It was a neck, head. I had a headache for like a week. And that's really the only real. I got whacked one time, and I think it was Montreal or somewhere, by one of those little wedgie things. They shot it out of it and hit me in the side of the head. I was with Wrestling Steamboat, and it was in Montreal or somewhere else. I don't know why I got Montreal, and it hit me right in the temple. And I'm my eyes are crossed. And there was a chair or a belt or something there, and Fuji wanted me to hit Steamboat with it. Start. Yeah, right. I couldn't have hit myself with the goddamn thing. I was spinning. Hit him. I told you to hit him. I said, I was out, Fuji. I don't know what's going on.
When did the mats come in? Around the ring?
I don't know. It would come and go in different places. It depends if the ring truck that was servicing your building had them or not. Eventually, they're uniformly all over the territory. But there was a latter part of my run there. WWF, they started bringing, and then it wasn't everywhere.
The probably last thing I'll ask is on this: how to work moves on the outside. Were there just some moves that you just could not do on the outside, no matter how careful you were?
Guess who's doing them? Evidently, Jake was mastered that DDT. That was, he kept that finish for years. He used it. So evidently, there was no room to, there was no room to, to do it, to make it look good as well, on the floor like that. So, I don't know. I was removed from that angle, and I'd worked with Steamboat before that.
Yeah, this is the year. I think you worked with him around 85, and this is 86.
Yeah, I had a nice long run with Steamboat before that.
Yeah. Okay, we'll move on. May 6th, Flint, Michigan. Danny Spivey gets into a legit fight with Adrian Adonis, both in the ring and in the back. The irony being that Spivey wasn't even the original opponent. George Steele was, so Spivey was subbing for. I think we may have talked about the fight once before, but just in case, the fight.
I don't think it wasn't much of a fight. It was more like the execution, or just a beating.
So
I wasn't there,
right? Adrian started.
I wasn't there, but I heard all the stories about it and stuff. I was always, I guess he would abuse, some of the younger. I don't know what the hell you want to pick on Danny Spivey. Pick your fights. There'd be I think better guys to pick on than Danny. He was, he was a good guy. I liked, I worked with him a bunch of times. I always had, what I thought were good matches. We had a hell of a match in Boston Gardens one time.
Is this you and Spivey or you and Adrian?
No, me and Spivey.
Right.
I never worked with Adrian in the WWE. WWE. Before that, in Florida, Keith Franks and stuff, they booked, because we used to hang out, and he was a preliminary heel, and I was, top babe, and they thought, there was Johnny Valentine was goofing around with us.
Do you remember the aftermath, obviously, of Adrian? How bad was he looking?
It just blew his face up. I think he knocked him out in the ring one time. He was trying to hook him with that sleeper. And what was it? Fred Atkins, a guy from Toronto, Hamilton, old Canadian shooter hooker, was the guy that broke him in. So he knew, Adrian could get stiff and could wrestle, but Danny Danny was, bartender, bouncer, bartender, bodyguard, you name it. And Danny had the big left hand. So I guess he just, then Bob Orton, a couple guys told me about it. Then Adrian went from locker room to locker room because he was pissed off. And there he was kind of, he's kind of moving around. And then Danny said, don't try it. Don't do anything. And he did it. Boom. Now there he went again. So.
Is that why he started wearing that heavy makeup on TV? For some reason, I've got that in the back of my mind, and that's why he started.
No, I don't know. He was just getting, trying to get over the top, I guess, with that, whatever kind of gimmick it was, gay gimmick.
You hinted at it before, but Danny Spivey is a worker. So, yeah, I mean, I've heard everything from terrible to actually he was pretty good.
Yeah, I thought he was a good card in Japan. They used him well in Japan, and he was solid, But I don't think, aside from Adrian, I don't think he ever, he never hurt him. You wouldn't expect him to hurt you. He'd be one of those guys, that would go out, and guys who would hurt somebody clumsy or taking liberties or something, By that point, everybody in the WWF, you can pretty much count on for not dropping on your head, or something like stupid like that. So he wasn't, and like I said, I had several matches with him. I remember I tore the joint up in Boston, old Boston Gardens one time. And obviously I was still a heel. He was a baby face. Took him through when he went right through one of those, the side retainer that bordered the ring. Went right through the thing, Is it come back? I forget what I did.
Is it one of those things where if somebody comes into a territory, you automatically get told one way or the other if they're legitimately tough or not, or did it have to come to a fight with Adrian for everybody to realize?
God, I don't know. If anybody knew anybody, guys who was tough and everybody was pretty seasoned by the time you got there. You were seasoned. You had whatever reputation you had, either drawing houses or being a tough guy. There wasn't, in Vince's world by that time there was no room for tough guys. It was all a Magnum PI or a Walt Disney creation. The Rock and Stone Cold. Well, going to that, Hulk and Warrior and Macho Man, those guys were all penciled into the top and everything, everybody worked around them. They had 2-3 other angles going. You had, another angle going with your guy and somebody else, but, aside from that, it was all, it was featured. I mean, nobody was going to go beat up Hulk or beat up Macho Man or, Stretch the Warrior or something like that. There's no future in it, first of all. You're all great. I'm a champion with no place to work. Great, Well, I look at my belt. You can send a couple $100 into the office and get a championship belt, if you want one.
Is it sort of like
Dr.
Dr. D?
Shiny too.
Dr. D, Dave Schultz, you're a champion with nowhere to work. I mean, not that he tried to attack Hulk Hogan on screen, at least.
No.
I shall move on then. Actually, this is a pretty good jumping off point because Danny Spivey is one half of the US Express. And the US Express as a tag team, Mike Rotunda. I don't think I've ever asked you about Mike Rotunda. What did you make of him? Because everybody thinks, or he's, within the business, that he's one of the best technicians and everything. But I only know him from the 90s. And I just always assumed he was just like another guy.
I met him first in Florida. He came into Florida first. And, Mike Rotundo, young guy out of Syracuse, amateur wrestler. And he was, he was just a hell of a nice guy. Talented and everything else, and worked around. When you go saying about that, you guys, you can't talk, or you have. unless you're come in like you're macho, like say Macho Man, like he developed his persona from watching The Missing Link, Pompero Firpo, and King Curtis. You know, he developed his promos out of their two styles. The Firpo was, oh yeah, that deep, you know, beautiful voice, and then Curtis had the long, loud, you know, entertaining, tremendous interviews. So thanks, buddy. So Macho Man was able to, that he set out, and his family ran a promotion. They ran they ran a opposition in Tennessee, and he had wrestling. So he had a lot of time on the top working around, main events to develop that thing. The other guys, like you talk, like back to Rotundo, a lot of guys don't have the time to develop a persona or something if they don't have one. And if you're put in another situation, you're working as this guy or something, you know, a clean, you know, you're not gonna be popping off or doing anything radical on your promos. You're just, yes sir. Yeah, I'm very happy to see the people in Tampa. It's a privilege to be writing here, and I'm wrestling Don Muraco this weekend, and he's a tough guy, and I'm going to be doing my best. I plan on, it's everything's vanilla with that. You know, whereas you're a heel and you got something to do, unless you come in as a baby face, that's something that's, like Firpo. He never came into the territory as a baby face, but if you come in, with that, that bellowing voice and stuff, So it's a two-way street. The guys never made it. Well, they never made it. They never had the opportunity.
Well, I wouldn't say not made it.
Like a lot of cases.
I wouldn't say not made it, because I mean he was in there for 20 years.
I know, but I mean didn't shine didn't shine one way or the other. And it's not easy changing personalities like that. Like, becoming Magnificent Muraco, at the drop of a hat is, you gotta be accustomed to that and be feeling, and built up to it after a while. It's not not an overday thing.
Why did Barry Windham leave in 19?
No idea.
No.
Probably family or something. I don't know. Being around, life was miserable on the road. We talked about earlier, the airplanes and the traveling and stuff like that. He was a young guy with a, young girl, a lot of girlfriends. And, I think it was way before he got married, or, it's no life, the money's good, but you have no life.
Did you wrestle them as a team, the US Express, either iteration?
They wrestled him, Rotundo, and Barry, and Spivey, all those guys. Yeah, I wrestled Barry when he was breaking in Florida. He's about 220 pounds. Big before he got as big as he is now. I saw him in Atlanta a few years later. Whoa. He's a big, like his dad. He's a big monster. But when I was working with him, and he wanted to learn, that was it. And he came from a wrestling family. So he knew he had that sense of humility to learn and take his time. And he trusted me, and I guess the office, Dusty and stuff talked to him, and he trusted I wasn't going to guzzle and make him look like, I guzzled him a couple times, because that was what I was supposed to do. That was part of the story. Till he came and wrapped that chair over my head and missed.
Oh, where did it go in the end? It was like the ridge.
Well, it was gimmick to break the thing, and he missed me. He hit me with the cross beam that wasn't business. Split me right across the top of my head. Then I went to Miami that night. Somebody hit me with a beer bottle, so I went down this way and that way. I had a big T on the top of my skull.
I might actually be speaking to him. A bit of an exclusive. I might be speaking to him maybe in a couple of months. I don't know. But that's been offered to me. Is Barry Windham. So if that's true, yeah, if that's true, well, I'll have to just get you on it, and you can interview him for an hour.
I wouldn't know what to say to him. I haven't spoken to him in a long time.
No.
Even when he was there, he was going. I guess he wasn't. He's a hell of a driver. He's been in a dozen accidents, I guess, and he always liked Corvettes and fast trucks and stuff like that. I guess he's blown up thousands of dollars with cars. I guess I never saw him much after that. And then we got to Florida. WWF. We're kind of different, on different paths.
Still, might be fun if to do a run-in or something. We'll see.
Yeah.
It depends if the time tallies with yours and mine all at the same time, which is a very small window of opportunity.
Working.
Is what? Sorry.
All my computer's working.
Oh yeah. Oh God. Right. That's another variable to factor in. Then I'll move on.
Yeah.
May 8th, you once again wrestle Hulk Hogan. May 9th, you lose to Paul Orndorff via DQ after Fuji Salt shenanigans. May 10th, you and Bundy lose to Hogan and Orndorff. So why could Paul get away with turning babyface and heel so many times? At least for the time period, and fans would just accept it, where for most people they wouldn't.
I guess he just had the look, and we didn't have enough arrogance when he turned heel to carry it. My body started kissing the bicep and stuff like that. So I guess he could just carry it. I don't know. He only had that one turn when he was there, and he worked that big angle with Hulk.
There was actually three, I think. So he's so he's a bad guy when he comes in. He turns good guy. I think I can't remember. Around 85, then turns on Hulk, and then he's a bad guy again. And then in 1988, he fires Bobby Heenan, and then becomes a good guy once again. And I think you wrestled with him in 1987 Survivor Series. I think you were on the team in the main event.
Oh yeah, with Bam Bam and I don't know.
Yeah.
Hogan. Supposed to be Patera, didn't I?
Yeah, Ken Patera.
I took Superstar or Patera's place.
You took Superstar's place.
Okay. Yeah.
So he flip flopped quite a few times, at least three, as far as I can remember.
I know after the first couple of runs, he wanted to go back and start a bowling alley. And that was really what caught, he lost his ass in that. So I don't know if he had, I think it was after that he went back, it was Hulk, and he went to Atlanta, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I think he went to the power plant, and then he started wrestling again for a couple of years. But then by that time, his arm was tiny. One of his arms was tiny. Do you remember what was the original injury? Do you know that caused
pinched nerve, something in his neck. Pinched. It was something I don't exactly. I don't think he didn't know. He would just sit around with his head on in traction and stuff before the match with a little weight machine and a couple weights, kind of lift his neck away from his head away from his shoulders and stuff. But never, and then it was just it was a nerve or something, something bad in his arm.
Could you tell when you were still around him? Could you tell, was that one arm getting smaller by that time, or did it take a few years?
It took a while, I guess. I see some atrophy, but not not as a rule. I guess if you're with the guy every day, you don't really notice. We weren't working on. I had some good matches with him when he was a babyface early. Like we had. Through some big houses, just cold, I don't know if I was champion or not, but I remember we did a big house in Cleveland, and they, cut that off right away. They didn't want a baby face drawn that much.
Really?
Yeah, if it wasn't, wasn't the big man, the Hulkster, they didn't want competition.
Really? Oh, you'll have to flesh that out for me a bit then. So how do you know?
Just the way he handled the bookings.
Right.
They your other baby faces could go so far, and then that was it. And if they got too hot, I was gone when Ultimate Warrior and those guys came through. But if they got two over, then well, you look at Macho Man and Hulk. They had all that heat, allegedly because of Liz or this or that or personal problems or it's always breaks down to money, and who's the top guy, who's top, you or me, and I guess Macho felt like he was ready to move in that position, and Hulk never ready to give up anything.
So I'm gonna have to harp on this a bit more then. So I know that you and Paul wrestle WrestleMania 2. You obviously wrestled within May. I don't have the list of how many times or when you stopped wrestling him, but he turns heel not too long afterwards. If as a conspiratorial mind, maybe would you say that he was turned heel once again, so he wasn't competition for Hulk?
Sure. Yeah. Of course. He had a great body on him. He was a hell of an athlete, great in the ring, good talker. He just he could have been anything. He could have been a threat.
Yeah. It just sounds so weird that he could have just headlined all the B shows, and there'd be no conflict. So I don't know. Sounds a bit odd.
Yeah, but you create a monster sometimes. They don't want that much dissension. Plus, it's the big guy in the office. Hulk doesn't. Hulk doesn't want to be outshone. Outshine.
Interesting.
It's like Piper. Piper could never lose. Would never lose.
We will move on. May 10th, WWF visits Baton Rouge. This is Mid-South territory. So,
yeah.
Bill Watts, I've heard that the only person to really take the fight to Vince, to his front door, is Bill Watts. Whenever, excuse me, the WWF would come into Mid-South territory, Bill would put on an opposing show for free with all the top stars, and he would just kill Vince's business. And he was the only one who successfully took the fight to him as well, I should say.
Yeah, I read that. Yeah, I read that in the pre-script. I don't know anything about it, but yeah, wouldn't surprise me, and it's a good tactic. And Watts was a smart guy, but you keep taking money out of the bank, not have any money left in the bank, because you got to pay for buildings, transportation, talent, everything that goes along with running a show,
And if you're running a free show, that's a day that you're not running a paid show.
Right. But all those charges are still all there. Ring and ping and advertising, everything's all there. The building, no less charge. Maybe ticket sellers save some money there, but aside from that,
Baton Rouge. Oh, actually, just before I mention that, is in a year's time, Mid-South would turn into the UWF, and then, or even less time, actually, maybe a few months. And then towards the end of their run, they were losing something like $50,000 a week. But luckily, Bill managed to negotiate a hugely inflated price and then sold it to Jim Crockett. So, he made out well at the end.
Yeah, I heard Jake Roberts hated the guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He gets on a couple of his shoot interviews and just, calls him everything but white. He's low down, no good, lying, so-and-so. I saw her watch this turn 83 the other day. Happy birthday to you.
You were a fan of him, weren't you?
Yeah, when he was booked in Florida, he was pretty cool.
With sorry.
He would have a great, he was a big, strong bull of a guy. We were going to Tampa one time, and something he goes sidestep me and pushed me into the turnbuckle head first. Then he had me, and he threw me like a just full force. I moved the ring about a foot. I had the turnbuckle so hard. He came back, it was just his help that he got me in the turnbuckle. I was going hard anyway. and they got back this. Oh, he comes like, well, that was a fantastic bump. You really, you. And then, what? You really took that turnbuckle. You really, come back and blow all kinds of smoke up your ass. All you, not, his fact that him pushing you from behind didn't help.
The question I was actually going to ask was Baton Rouge, one of the roughest towns to work in, even in the Mid-South Territory. Was, by the time you went there in like 1986, were there any rough towns left, or did you attract just a completely different audience from the Territory audience?
Yeah, I think WWF by that time was, attracting a different clientele. It was scaled. They're already the cartoons and the people in Hulk Hogan, and the milk and the prayers and the vitamins. Say your prayers and the vitamins and stuff. They'd already turned their market around. Their marketing was already focused on younger target, the merchandising and et cetera, et cetera. So it's no longer the regular, no longer the old wrestling. I hate you, I'm going to make you bleed. One of those. And red means bread. And there was red no longer meant bread. And then red meant, you're getting fined in the office or something, Red was no longer, there's no blood. There was hardly any lady wrestlers, so, just the still Moolah's girls, basically. And, they weren't all, the see-through, clothes and stuff. They were pretty conservative.
You've mentioned something there that's interesting. So you get fined from the WWF for cutting yourself then. When did that get implemented? Was this during your time?
Not necessarily. Just they didn't have a no cutting policy yet when I was there. In fact, when I was wrestling, who the hell had an angle going with somebody? Steamboat, I think, or Steamboat or Tito or something, and he tore my rotator out. I couldn't, I couldn't punch. I couldn't do anything. So all I could do was cut myself and bleed. Get heat and cut myself. There wasn't much I could do. Fortunately, I was in main events and stuff. Went to a peak where I could do that, and there weren't a lot of guys on the card that did a lot of bleeding, and stuff. So, I could get away with it still, and I hadn't turned that yet. But, I couldn't work. I was, and I couldn't take off. But I could barely. That was when I threw Steamboat over the top rope. We had him with the whole thing I could remember is just I was in a sweat trying to lift him high enough to get him over that top rope because my shoulder was just I don't know how I did it, but I got him over there in Fuji.
When was the last time you did it? When was the last time you cut yourself on purpose?
New Zealand, 80-something, 87, 88.
Oh, right. So you were doing these on like post WWF tours still occasionally?
Well, this was, I was running a territory. My friend was running the territory in New Zealand, and we were trying to run, So I had some kind of Commonwealth champion or something, and I brought in the Buddha Dean and we did some big houses. We did, the TV was strong. The WWF TV was strong in New Zealand at the time, and I was just off the TV. On the Rock. I was, and I hated Don the Rock. It's Don the Rock. In that New Zealand, the New Zealand accent, So. But yeah, we were touring. But that's the last, and I wasn't abduling myself to death there. I was just,
What was the worst? What was the worst one you did where you just went, "Oh no, I've done it too deep"?
Never.
Oh, so you've never just like bled a total gusher and just went, "Oh," like fainting?
Hell no. Never did a Bobby Heenan. No. No. Or Curtis.
Yeah.
Curtis used to leave locks of hair in the ring. Of course, he was half drunk when he was doing it.
Thins the blood, I hear.
Look, His head was all those guys, Abdullah, Snuka, Brody. There's a bunch of guys. Then guys, then all these guys they wanted to look like that. They started zigging their head up and down,
Pristine forehead, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
I will move on.
Horizontal slices. I know everybody didn't do because you get more blood that way. It's a longer cut when you just go up and down. It's just just concentrate in one little spot. When you go horizontal,
it goes with the grain, doesn't it? So it sort of like blends in with wrinkles.
Yeah, but you get more blood that way when you go up and down. Just unless you go on both sides, all over your.
Well, the main artery is like right in the middle, isn't it? So I mean, isn't that where you just want to just go like just across that just a tiny bit, or do you want to avoid the artery?
I don't know. I never got that close to it. I wouldn't have to worry about.
Good for you. Did you always go for like the middle of the forehead, or would you do like more up the hairline?
No, it's on the side of each over an eye.
Yeah,
but long.
Not to give. Well, we're giving away all the secrets, I suppose. But where would you hide your blade? Not in your mouth, hopefully.
My finger.
Oh, fingernail.
My finger, just taped. I always have my hands taped anyway. My fingers are always, I said they taped. When I started with that Asiatic spike thing, I taped that and taped the thumb, and so I'd always tape the finger. So I always have the taped fingers. So it didn't really look obvious. I just flipped the tape off, boom, and pulled the tape back over.
With I'm trying to think who used to do it, but like some people have like razors in like under the fingernails and stuff, and whenever they like throw a punch at the other guy, they just like zip him every single time. Was there anybody who was just dangerous with a blade to the other person?
Only Lou Albano. He was like a back alley robber, highwayman. My first blade job was in where we went up to. They brought a bunch of guys up from Florida when they opened the Spectrum in Philadelphia, and we had a couple. I worked with one of the Valiants before then they had a big battle royal, and the Spectrum, and Lou was in the thing. They were working their own angles, and we were from Florida. We were just there, gratis from the office. And I don't know, I came back, I had scratches all over my body. What the hell happened? I didn't realize I'd been around Lou Albano. Yeah.
That'll do it.
Blades, knives, razors, scalpels. He had everything. He'd come back here, hold his feet, and he'd pull his one. Look. He'd stick his tongue to the side of his mouth. It was really, he'd have all those rubber bands in his thing. Yeah. Look how I cut myself. He'd stick his tongue at you from through his cheek. He was excited.
You must have, when you went up there, you must have gone, what have I got myself into? What is going on with this? Like, this was like 77, wasn't it, when you went up there?
Oh, yeah. Well, was it?
Maybe it was earlier.
No, more around 74.
74? Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, 74, 75. When they first opened the Spectrum, Philadelphia. Like I said, with Bob Armstrong, Robert Fuller, Mike Graham. Bobby Duncan was a heel. He was going in to work with Pedro Bruno. I'm not sure which one. Who was the champion at the time?
I'm checking this right now, don't you? Hang on. I'll tell you. Whoops, in a second. It is the 3rd of August, 1974, and you lose to Jimmy Valiant, as well as the Battle Royal.
Okay.
I didn't even know you wrestled Jimmy as well.
Everybody had a pre-battle royal match. They set us up, put over one of their heels. Mm. A good chance to get them over with, good baby faces from Florida then. Bob Armstrong and who else did I say? Robert Fuller, Mike Graham.
I can give you the full list of people in the Battle Royal if you like. So we've got Bobby Duncan wins, and you're against Bob Armstrong, Chief J. Strongbow, Dean Ho, Don Muraco, Fred Blassie, Haystacks Calhoun, Jimmy Valiant, Johnny Valiant, Larry Zabisco, Lou Albano, Otto Van Heller. I don't know the name. Pete Doherty, Professor Toru Tanaka, I've got my glasses. Ron Fuller, Strong Kobayashi. Who is this?
Fuller.
Silvano Souza, Tony Altamore, Tony Gurria, and Victor Rivera.
Yeah. So Souza was a local job guy from Rhode Island, I think. Boston, Rhode Island.
Strong Kobayashi, I've heard the name of.
He was with Vern Gagne. He was AWA. He came in. He was in that first third organization from at Tokyo, that international Kokusai Pro Wrestling. It was after he got there. He got with All Japan and New Japan, and somebody had come up with the money to start this third. This is way back in '71, 74. I don't know. First time I went there for 71.
My Japanese wrestling knowledge is really pathetic, unfortunately. But do you know what? I think we should get some people to ask some Japan questions and do like a Japan-only special, because, I mean, you went there enough times. I mean, we could probably do 10 episodes on it. I mean...
Yeah, but a little, Jumbo Teruta. I went to both companies, at Jumbo Teruta and Fujinami, were the baby faces I usually get, and the other ones. But if they needed time, I worked with the Jumbo or on one side, or Fujinami for Inoki. Jumbo stayed with Baba, and Fujinami went with Inoki. Both of them are fine workers. I think Fujinami's still alive. I don't know. Not sure.
I think that's something for... do you know what, actually? Because we're going to record 2 episodes today, as we always do, and then next time I'll ask some questions. I'll solicit questions just for Japan, so that'll be something interesting to do. We'll move on. May 13th, Lisa Sweeler, wife of Curtis Sweeler, founder of the Guardian Angels, wrestles Velvet McIntyre in a dark match. Who is this?
I don't know what the thing was. Curtis, however you say his name.
It's like Swiller, something.
Yeah, he had I think he's a politician now, if I'm not confused, not mistaken, or was trying to at one time. After he had a bunch of guys. It was like they weren't Black Panthers, but there were something, Red Panthers or something like that. So an organization, like a positive gang type, group, and they had a lot of stroke around New York and stuff. And his wife was a good looking girl, and why she wanted to be a professional wrestler, I have no idea. And but I know maybe that was her in, or he had something like that, and they had to use, it was a political thing behind the scenes, with stuff that I wasn't in on, or I wasn't privy to, where he was using those red berets or whatever they were,
Well, the Guardian Angels.
They kind of gave him a pass. Yeah. Guardians, Guardian Angels or something like that. And I don't know why the wife. I think they got divorced after that. I think she was going on with Jim. She was going on one of the wrestlers, I think.
So was she there? Was she there more than once? Then, if you remember.
God, I don't know. He was there a couple times, but only around like New York areas. I don't even know if they'd even let him in the garden. He was at TVs and stuff like that. And he wasn't interested in the wrestlers. He had him and Vince were working on, he was trying to get his group over. Vince was trying to, they're trying to wash each other's hands. Why, I don't know. And, it was early in the WWF. So, Vince, he didn't need any type of opposition at the time like that. Not that he could present any, but there was a possibility he may be a disrupting factor for one reason or another. I don't know. I just know he had, he had some kind of clout.
I honestly didn't realize that the Guardian Angels. I mean, because we don't have like the Guardian Angels here. The only reference I know of the Guardian Angels is that the Big Boss Man, when he went to WCW briefly, was called the Guardian Angel, and he wore the red beret thing. So I just know that they used it as a gimmick. So
Maybe that was it.
Yeah. He clearly this Curtis Swiller probably went to WCW, or WCW went to them. So he was still trying to use pro wrestling to get the group over.
Yeah, probably. I'm sure he solicited, a lot of, everybody could, boxing, wrestling, roller derby.
For the last question or set of questions, May 27th, a few long-time enhancement talent appear at the same show. So I thought I'd ask your opinions on all of them. First is Terry Gibbs.
He was Southern, but down south. From around there, he knocked. He was okay. He was a decent worker. Another guy never got got on the mic. Never really was interested in developing a personality or a character for himself. Mostly, being pretty, hey buddy, how you doing? One of those kind of guys. He was a decent worker.
Next one, Mario Mancini.
He was a Connecticut boy. He was young. God, I talked to him now. I see him. I think he was like 18 years old when he first started, and he's going. Came down doing jobs, and where we worked. All those guys worked hard. I lived around Connecticut for a while when I first went in there, and then down to Jersey later. So I come across those kids. He was he and Paul Roma. He was one of Paul's buddies.
Yeah, he still works with Paul, I think, doesn't he? Doesn't he have like a wrestling school or something?
Yeah, still in Connecticut as well, right?
Mm.
Around Bridgeport or something like that.
And Les Thornton. Is he the English guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was just filling in days, getting paydays. He was he's one of those guys, one of those great, there was one of a hell of a worker. It was Middle East with him, and I was in Los Angeles with him. He was a good guy, great hand. Like Les Thornton, Tony Charles, Tony Rocca, we talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. They're all about the same size. That's some of the other English boys that were around at the time. All great workers, all good hand, all solid in the ring. Had their, little bit of English style, but they could convert into. He was mostly a heel, I think. Les. Mm. Well, he and Tony Charles, a couple of the English boys. They had some matches just ridiculous. Really, real combination, old school, new school, English, American. Everything. Like the Japanese. We were talking about Japanese later. But they started that high spot, that crazy stuff. But it really came from England with Robinson and those guys, the suplexes and that started with Billy and the guys that followed Billy, and naturally Dynamite, Tommy and those guys, really, really took it over the top. But that all came from majority of those things came from England. Or those kind of guys.
Obviously, for TV, we'll stick with Les Thornton for a minute. Obviously, for TV, Les would mostly just get eaten up in 2 minutes and then see you later. But on the house shows, guys like Tony Charles and Les Thornton, who could really wrestle, did they ever get the opportunity just to tear the house down for 10 minutes against certain guys? And, would you give them
not
stuff?
In New York, but I'm in Tampa, in Florida territories and other territories. They would, when they featured a lot of wrestling, a lot of stuff like that, they'd put them on, yeah.
So even in the house shows, WWF, even in the opening match and a C show somewhere, they wouldn't be given just 15 minutes, go nuts.
Could be. I wouldn't. I don't think that was the idea. The office didn't have that as a plan or a focus on that. But maybe in the back of their head, maybe somebody in doing the booking realized that, and they put these, hook these guys. Tony Charles wasn't there; he stayed down in Florida. But there were guys that Les could work, other guys that he worked with. Those guys could work, work together with. Fabulous.
And the last question, I'm sure I've asked you this before, but I'll ask it a slightly different way. The jobber or enhancement talent that was the most fun to work with, and quite frankly, should have been a bigger star for their talents.
Oh my God, there's a lot of them around there. That, like I said, guys in that area, guys from there, never got a push. They just weren't gonna. I think Bundy was like the first guy to ever get a, and he was Chris Pally. He and his brother, they get squashed there for a long time. But Bundy, Larry Sharp was a good hand. They all had to go out of New York to get, get top work, main event work. But you're there and you got a home and you're working. And those days you just drive. You're in New Jersey, New York, upstate New York, different areas like that, Pennsylvania. So you could drive, you can work, you can make $500-800, maybe more in a week, but you're still living at home and you got a regular job. So it's a two-sided coin.
So if you have to name one enhancement talent that you enjoyed working with more than any other, give us one name.
Wow, different guys at the time. It was Eddie Gilbert and Kurt Hennig, and a couple of those kids when they're coming. I saw a picture recently of Eddie Gilbert and Kurt Hennig when they were working at the same time that they were in the territory. They took a picture of them, the two together. Tommy Gilbert, Eddie's dad, and Larry, Kurt's dad. They came because I remember Kurt first came in. And he had a bad knee, so he was learning. A good kid. Great kid, and wanted to learn. So you talk about enhancement talent. They were enhancement talent at the time. So who's enhancement talent? With other the funnest guy was Pete Doherty. He was, but then I don't know if I ever worked with him. I don't know. He was a heel, so I wouldn't I probably wouldn't be booked with him. But Pete Doherty, he was always fun to have in the locker room. He was drunk, he'd be drinking. There was an old guy, oh God, Sammy or something. They used to razz each other. Get out of here, you drunken bum. Yeah, shut up, you old man. I'm gonna go die. Back and forth like that all night long. Oh God. Yeah, Pete Doherty did some radical stuff.
That's a good thing. Do you know, just because you mentioned him, and I was going to shut the podcast down, but I've got to ask, Eddie Gilbert, did you hang around with him much during the Eastern Championship Wrestling ECW days?
No, I didn't. I was just in and out of there real fast.
But you did quite a lot of shows.
He was looking. Huh?
You did quite a lot of shows though for ECW, and basically, I think he was doing the booking until he was partially doing the booking until later '93.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I was in there. I took the belt from somebody and then dropped it to Tito. And then in between that, I didn't, all the guys I wrestled most of the time that I worked with, were all, like you asked before, Honky Tonk used to give them one bump. I wasn't wrestling. I wasn't working. I wasn't normally booked with, guys like that. That I have to give one bump to. It was usually Tito, Snuka, somebody from my past that I got hooked up with. Could work.
I'm looking at your dates here that you did. From June '92. Yeah, you're right. You really were only in and out. I mean, there's quite a lot of matches here, but loads of them were filmed on the same day.
Yeah.
So, there's 3 here. So I'll give an example. These are August 1993. Stan Hansen and Tito Santana defeat Don Muraco and Shane Douglas. Tito Santana defeats Don Muraco for the title change. And Don Muraco, Jimmy Snuka, and Shane Douglas defeat Donnie Allen. Can't even read that. Ave Renesto and Metal Maniac. So, and then the day before, Don Muraco defeats the Metal Maniac. So yeah, you really were sort of in and out. You were filming matches, but they were all just in blocks, and you only went a few times.
Yeah. I wasn't really working the territory.
No. Okay then. I will shut down this podcast on that sort of like slightly disappointing last answer, and and so I'm trying to think of like so the plugs then. So I've got nothing of yours to plug, so I'll just plug my stuff behind me. Owen Hart and the Rock Books, Amazon.com or .co.uk or .nz or wherever you buy your books, whatever territory you're in. And thank you, Don, once again for entertaining us.
Aloha.